The night smelled of rain and pine. Cold wind slid through the tall black trees surrounding Ravenridge Pack territory, whispering through branches like secrets the forest refused to release. Lanterns hung from iron hooks along the stone pathway, leading toward the grand Alpha Hall, their golden light flickering across polished marble and dark glass windows. Inside, music played, not soft music, not gentle music, powerful music, the kind meant for wolves. The annual moon gathering had begun. Every pack across the northern territories had sent representatives, alphas, betas, warriors, diplomats, and most importantly, unmated females, because tonight was not just a celebration. It was a selection, and everyone knew who was selecting. Alpha King Kale Draven, the most feared alpha in the region, the most powerful, and the most dangerously unmated. Lyria Vale did not belong here. She stood near the far balcony, hidden behind a white marble pillar, her fingers lightly gripping a crystal glass she hadn't touched since arriving. Her silver, gray dress was simple compared to the jeweled gowns worn by the noble-born wolves inside the hall. Simple but elegant. Soft fabric flowed around her like moonlight, and her long dark hair fell naturally over her shoulders. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, in fact, she was trying not to be noticed. Lyria, her best friend Mira, leaned closer, whispering urgently, "You can't keep hiding, he's already here." Lyria didn't turn, I know. Her voice was calm, too calm. But inside, her wolf stirred uneasily, because the air had changed. Every wolf in the hall could feel it. Power, dominance, the unmistakable presence of an alpha king. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. Silence fell instantly. Then he walked in, Alpha King Kale Draven, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black formal attire that only made his presence darker, sharper, more dangerous. His jaw was strong, expression unreadable, and his eyes were molten gold, predatory, commanding. Unforgiving, the aura around him rolled across the hall like invisible thunder, forcing weaker wolves to lower their gazes without realizing it. Even seasoned warriors stiffened. Even alphas stepped aside, because Kale Draven was not just another alpha. He was the alpha of alphas, and he had come tonight for one reason, to find his mate. Lyria exhaled slowly. Not because she was nervous, but because she was already tired of what she knew was coming. "Please don't let him come near me," she muttered under her breath. Mira blinked, nothing. But Lyria knew, her wolf knew. The pull had already begun, a faint thread. A quiet instinct, a dangerous possibility. Mate? No, absolutely not. Lyria tightened her grip on the glass. She hadn't come here for romance. She hadn't come here for power. She hadn't come here for him. She came because her pack forced her to. Because Ravenridge needed alliances. Because her father believed this gathering could change their future. But Lyria had already decided something long before tonight. She would never belong to an alpha king, especially not one like Kale Draven. Across the hall, Kale stopped walking. His gaze sharpened. Someone had caught his attention, a scent, soft, silver, wild, different, not perfumed like the others. Not forced, natural, real. His wolf stirred instantly. Mate. Kale's eyes narrowed. Impossible. He had attended dozens of gatherings over the years. Met countless wolves, felt attraction, interest, curiosity. But never this. Never the primal pull now tightening in his chest. His gaze slowly moved across the hall, scanning, searching. Then he saw her standing near the balcony. Half hidden, calm, unimpressed, not staring at him like the others, not smiling, not trying, just watching the rain beyond the glass. And something inside him shifted, dangerously. Lyria felt it before she saw him. The pull suddenly strengthened. Closer, stronger, too strong. Her wolf stirred sharply. Mate, her heartbeat skipped. No, she whispered. But when she turned, he was already walking toward her. The crowd parted automatically. Every step he took felt deliberate. Focused, certain, and everyone noticed. Whispers spread instantly. Who is he going to choose? Which pack is she from? Is that the Alpha King's mate? Mira grabbed Lyria's arm. Oh no. Lyria didn't answer, because Kale Draven had stopped directly in front of her, close enough for her to feel the heat of his presence, close enough to smell cedarwood and rain, close enough for her wolf to recognize him. Mate. Kale studied her silently. His gaze intense, measuring, interested, and something else, possessive. "What is your name?" he asked. His voice was deep, controlled, but powerful enough to send a shiver across the air. Lyria met his gaze. Unafraid, unimpressed, and answered calmly, "Lyria Vale." A small pause, then, "I'm not interested." Silence exploded across the hall. Mira nearly choked. Several nearby wolves froze completely, because no one spoke to the Alpha King like that. Kale didn't move, didn't blink, but something dark flickered in his eyes. Not anger, not exactly. Interest, sharp, unexpected, dangerous. "I don't recall asking whether you were interested." Lyria tilted her head slightly. Calm, steady, "But I'm telling you anyway." A few gasps echoed behind them. Kale studied her longer now. Carefully, as if reassessing everything. Most females tried to impress him. Most tried to attract his attention. Most tried to become his mate. But this one rejected him without hesitation, without fear, without even raising her voice. And for the first time in years, Kale smiled, not warmly, not gently, but slowly, predatorily. Interesting. Lyria felt her heartbeat quicken. Not because she was intimidated, but because something had changed in his scent, focus, intent, attention. Danger, she turned slightly toward the balcony. "I came here for fresh air, not conversation." Kale stepped closer. Close enough that his voice dropped lower. "Yet you have both." Lyria exhaled, already exhausted by him. Already annoyed by the pull between them, already certain of one thing: this was going to become a problem. A very big problem, because when she tried to step past him, Kale moved with her, blocking her path. Not aggressively, but deliberately. "Dance with me." It wasn't a request. Lyria met his eyes again, then said quietly, "No." The music continued playing, but the tension in the air became electric. Kale's wolf surged instantly. Not in anger, in fascination. No one refused him twice. No one dared, yet she had, and something inside him locked into place. Decision, claim, obsession. Lyria finally stepped around him and walked toward the balcony doors, ignoring the whispers, ignoring the stares, ignoring him. But as she stepped into the cool night air, she didn't realize something had already changed. Behind her, inside the grand hall, Alpha King Kale Draven turned slightly toward his beta, his voice calm. "Certain, unavoidable, find out everything about Lyria Vale." The beta hesitated. "Your Majesty, are you certain?" Kale's golden eyes darkened. "Yes." A small pause, then "She says she isn't interested." A slow smile followed, "But she will be." Outside, rain began to fall. Soft, cold, quiet. Lyria stood beneath the balcony arch, watching droplets ripple across the forest below. Her wolf remained restless, uneasy, because even though she had walked away, the bond had not. And deep in the shadows of the hall, the Alpha King was already watching her again. Not like a ruler, not like a stranger, but like a hunter. And Lyria had just become his favorite chase. # Part 2. The Alpha King does not forget. The rain did not stop. It deepened. Soft droplets turned into silver threads, falling across the dark forest, tapping gently against the stone balcony where Lyria stood alone. She should have gone back inside. She should have returned to her pack representatives, smiled politely, endured the ceremony, and left quietly. Instead, she stayed, because her wolf refused to settle. "Mate," the word echoed again. Sharp, persistent. Annoying, Lyria pressed her fingers against the cold railing. "No," she whispered. Her wolf did not argue, but it did not agree either. Inside the hall, the music grew louder. Dancers filled the polished marble floor, gowns spinning, suits shifting under golden chandeliers. Laughter and conversation returned, but something had changed. Everyone kept glancing toward the balcony. Toward her, toward him. Because Alpha King Kale Draven had not chosen anyone else. And he had not stopped watching. Kale stood near the center of the hall, one hand resting behind his back. Posture relaxed, but his eyes remained fixed on the open balcony doors. On her silhouette, on the way the moonlight traced the outline of her figure, on the way she refused to look back. His beta, Ronan, stepped beside him. "I have information." Kale didn't turn, speak. Lyria Vale, age 22, daughter of a minor council member from Ravenridge Pack. Not noble, not politically significant. Cale's gaze sharpened slightly. Continue. She works as a healer. That made him pause. A healer. Interesting. Unmated. Ronan added carefully. No recorded courtships. Cale finally turned his head and Ronan hesitated. She has rejected several offers. A faint smirk touched Cale's lips. Of course she had. Outside, Lyria sensed him before she heard him. That same electric pull, closer. Stronger, dangerously close. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't turn. Footsteps approached behind her. Calm, confident, unavoidable. Cale stopped beside her, resting his forearms lightly against the balcony railing as if he belonged there. As if he belonged everywhere. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Rain fell between them like a quiet challenge. Then, you're avoiding me. Lyria didn't look at him. I prefer peace. Cale's voice lowered. I prefer honesty. Now she turned. Slowly their eyes met again, and the air shifted. Up close, Cale was even more intimidating than before. Not because of his height, not because of his strength, but because of his focus. He looked at her like she was a problem he intended to solve. Lyria disliked that immediately. You're used to getting what you want, she said calmly. Yes. He didn't hesitate. Didn't soften it. Didn't pretend otherwise. The honesty surprised her. But, Lyria continued, I'm not something to win. Cale studied her face carefully. The rain caught in her hair. Small droplets shimmered along her lashes. She wasn't trying to look beautiful, but somehow that made her impossible to ignore. You are my mate? There it was, direct, certain, final. Lyria's expression didn't change, but her heartbeat did. I don't believe in fate, she replied. That answer caught him off guard. Not the words, the tone. She meant it. Cale straightened slightly. Every wolf believes in the mate bond. Every wolf is wrong sometimes. Silence followed. Not tense, not angry, just sharp, like two forces testing each other. Lightning flickered far across the forest horizon. For a brief moment, silver light flashed across Lyria's eyes, and Cale felt his wolf surge again, stronger this time. Claim her, the instinct hit hard, sudden, possessive. He forced it down, barely. Why? Cale asked. Lyria frowned slightly. Why what? Why reject it? The question was quieter now, less commanding. More curious, and that surprised her. For the first time, she looked at him fully, not as a king, not as a threat. Just as a man, and she answered honestly, because bonds don't guarantee happiness. Something in her voice shifted. A shadow, a memory, Cale noticed immediately. What happened? Lyria stepped back, instantly guarded again. Nothing that concerns you. There it was again, distance, walls, resistance, and instead of frustrating him, it pulled him deeper. Inside, thunder rolled. The music stopped briefly as servants moved to close several open windows. The night was growing colder, but the air between them remained warm, charged, unsettling. Cale stepped closer. Not aggressively, not forcefully, just enough that she could feel his presence again. I am not the men you've known. Lyria crossed her arms slightly. I don't know you at all. That can change, no. The word came quickly, firmly, without hesitation. Again, rejection. Something dangerous flickered in Cale's eyes. Not anger, something far more intense. Interest turning into determination. You keep saying no. Lyria met his gaze steadily. Yes. Why? Because I want to. That answer, that simple, fearless answer, did something unexpected. It made him laugh, softly, low, genuine, and for a brief second, the terrifying Alpha King didn't look terrifying at all. He looked intrigued. The rain began falling harder now. Cold droplets touched Lyria's shoulders, soaking lightly into the silver fabric of her dress. She turned slightly. I'm going inside. But before she could step past, Cale spoke again, quiet, serious. Unavoidable, this isn't over. Lyria stopped, not because she was afraid, but because she believed him. Slowly, she looked back over her shoulder, her voice calm, but firm enough to draw a line. It is for me. Then she walked inside. The hall had grown quieter, not because the event ended, but because everyone had noticed. The Alpha King had spoken to her again. And she had walked away again, Mira rushed toward Lyria immediately. What happened? Nothing. That didn't look like nothing. Lyria exhaled. He thinks I'm his mate. Mira blinked. Are you? Lyria hesitated, just for a second. Then yes, Mira nearly screamed. Across the hall, Cale watched her, still, silent, focused. Ronan stepped beside him again. Well, Cale's answer came without hesitation. She's leaving tonight. Yes, make sure she doesn't. Ronan froze. Your Majesty. Cale's golden eyes darkened slightly. Not with cruelty, with certainty. I don't chase many things. A small pause, but I'm going to chase her. And across the crowded hall, Lyria suddenly felt it. That same electric pull again. Stronger, closer, dangerously real. Her wolf stirred, uneasy. Because something told her, walking away from the Alpha King, was going to be much harder than she thought. Part 3. The night she tried to leave the moon gathering ended later than expected. Not because the celebration lasted longer, but because tension had settled over the hall like invisible fog. Everyone felt it. The Alpha King had not chosen a mate, and worse, he had been rejected, twice, by the same girl. Whispers spread faster than music. Some wolves were shocked, some amused, some nervous. But only one person understood the truth. Lyria, because she could still feel him, even across the crowded hall. The bond had not weakened, it had grown stronger. Lyria, we should leave now. Mira spoke quickly, glancing toward the exit. The earlier the better. Lyria nodded. Agreed. She didn't need convincing. Every instinct inside her was telling her the same thing. Leave. Before it becomes complicated. Before he decides something dangerous. Before her wolf starts wanting what her mind refused. Outside, the rain had softened into a cold mist drifting through the night air. Packed carriages lined the long stone pathway, lanterns glowing warmly against the dark forest surrounding the estate. Ravenridge's carriage waited near the lower gate. 2 guards stood beside it. Everything looked normal. Peaceful, safe. Lyria relaxed slightly. Maybe she had worried for nothing. Maybe the Alpha King would simply leaving already. The voice came from behind her. Deep, calm, unavoidable. Lyria stopped walking, closed her eyes briefly, of course. Slowly she turned. Cale stood at the top of the stone steps, shadows stretching behind him. The lantern light traced the sharp lines of his face, his golden eyes darker in the night. Watching her not casually, not politely, intently, Mira quietly stepped backward. I suddenly remembered I need to check something. Lyria didn't even look at her. Coward. Within seconds, Mira had disappeared toward the carriage, leaving Lyria alone beneath the lantern. Lit rain. Alone with him, again. You didn't say goodbye, Cale said. Lyria crossed her arms. I didn't realize I needed permission to leave. You don't. A small pause. But I expected courtesy. Lyria tilted her head slightly. Courtesy usually goes both ways. The faintest hint of amusement touched his expression. She was still challenging him, still refusing to soften, still refusing him, and somehow that only made the pull stronger. Cale descended the steps slowly, each step deliberate, controlled, powerful. The air seemed to shift with him. Not because he was trying to intimidate her, but because he simply existed that way, dominant, unavoidable. When he stopped in front of her again, the distance between them was closer than before, closer than it should have been. You're running, I'm leaving. Same thing, no. Her voice remained calm, but her heartbeat didn't. The bond pulsed again. Stronger, closer, her wolf stirred, not resisting, not fully, and that scared her more than anything. Because part of her, a small, dangerous part, was beginning to feel curious. I don't understand you, Cale said quietly. That makes 2 of us. Most wolves would be honored. I'm not most wolves. He studied her carefully. Rain mist settled lightly across her hair and shoulders, making her glow softly beneath the lantern light. She wasn't trying to impress him. Yet she was impossible to ignore. And for the first time in years, Cale felt something unfamiliar. Not control, not certainty, unpredictability. Tell me something honestly, he said. Lyria hesitated, then nodded. Fine. Are you rejecting me? His voice lowered slightly. Or the bond? The question caught her off guard. Because the answer wasn't simple and she didn't lie, I don't know. The words came softer than she intended, but they were real, and Cale noticed immediately. The wind shifted. Her scent reached him again, wild lavender. Rain, soft strength. His wolf surged sharply, claim her. The instinct hit harder than before, stronger. Demanding. For a brief moment, Cale's eyes flashed brighter gold. Lyria felt it instantly, power, possession. Danger, her breath caught, and for the first time she stepped back. That single step changed everything. Cale froze because it wasn't defiance, it wasn't attitude, it was fear. And something about the idea that she might actually be afraid of him, cut deeper than he expected. His voice softened, just slightly. I would never force you. The words hung between them, heavy, honest. Unexpected, Lyria studied his face carefully, searching for manipulation, for control, for arrogance. But she didn't find any. Only certainty and something else. Patience. The rain grew lighter, almost gone. The forest beyond the gates shimmered with silver fog. Lyria exhaled slowly, then let me leave. Cale didn't answer immediately. The bond pulsed again, stronger, closer. His wolf didn't want her to go. Every instinct inside him rejected the idea. But he had just said he wouldn't force her. And Alpha Kings did not break their word, even when it cost them. Finally, he stepped aside. The path opened. You can leave. Relief flickered across Lyria's chest. But before she could move, Cale spoke again, quiet, certain, unavoidable. But this isn't finished. She looked back at him. He continued, I will come to Ravenridge. The words landed like thunder. Lyria blinked. What? I want to know my mate. The statement was simple. Direct, terrifying. You don't even know if I'll accept. I know. A small pause, but I'm still coming. Lyria stared at him for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. She smiled, not warmly, not flirtatiously, but knowingly. Then you're going to be disappointed. Cale's eyes darkened slightly. I doubt that. She turned and walked toward the carriage. This time he didn't stop her, didn't follow, didn't call her back, but he watched until the carriage door closed, until the wheels began moving, until the lantern lights faded down the forest road. And even then Cale remained standing in the rain. Silent, still, focused, because something had already locked into place. Decision, desire, obsession. Inside the carriage, Mira leaned forward instantly. What did he say? Lyria looked out the window at the fading estate lights. He's coming to Ravenridge. Mira gasped. What? Lyria leaned her head back against the seat, closing her eyes. Exhausted, uneasy, and strangely curious. Far behind them, at the top of the stone steps, Cale finally turned toward his beta. Prepare the schedule. Ronan frowned. For tomorrow. Cale's answer came calmly. No. A small pause. For Ravenridge. And deep in the dark forest beyond the estate, a storm was already forming. Not in the sky, but in fate, because Lyria Vale had just done the one thing no one else ever dared to do. She told the Alpha King no. And now he was coming for her.